What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out Space Force is the newest US military branch, but what do they actually do? This is by Business Insider. It did come out in 2022, but I wanted to watch this video because I honestly don't really know what they do. I'm guessing it's just a bunch of cybersecurity, isn't it, really? But yeah, I don't know. And so let's check it out. Let's have some fun. Let's learn some stuff, and let's grow as a body of men. That's a cool thing I've been doing recently. That's super cool. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We're so close to 500,000 subscribers, guys. We are so close to doing it. And when it happens, we're going to drink this mead and have a party. And it's going to be great. So subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to watch the video without me waffling over the top, you can, as always, in the description. There'll be a link to the original video. Don't be that guy in the comments. Who's that person in the corner? Why is his head in the corner waffling on? Don't be that guy. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. All right, subbies are on. Let's watch this. Let's figure out what the hell these people are doing. What are you doing?
This is the inside of a radome, playfully called golf balls by Space Force Guardians.
Don't they have one of them at Disney? Epcot.
These radomes house satellite dishes that help Guardians detect incoming missiles sent by foreign adversaries. A crucial piece of equipment that has saved hundreds of American lives.
It was the largest ever ballistic.
Just let me pause it. Are the Space Force still part? Are they part of the Air Force? Is it just like a sub-branch?
Missile attack on Americans.
On January 8th, 2020, Iran fired missiles at the Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq, where 2,000 American troops were stationed.
Our troops right here at Buckley were able to detect the missiles and then report the specific areas at risk at Al-Assad and afford the troops on the ground the opportunity to escape and get out of the way. And as a result, nobody died.
That's
Since
really
its
cool.
inception in
That,
2019
well, people don't realize how good that actually is. That's actually very, very impressive.
The United States Space Force has quickly become a crucial component of the U.S. military. But many Americans still don't understand what exactly this branch does.
I like the idea of a Space Force. I mean, I don't know if we need it, and I'm sure there are better ways we could spend our money, but it sounds awesome. It really does.
I mean, he's not wrong. It's such a cool, like, I'm part of the Space Force. If you were a Marine and then you go into the Space Force, does that mean you're a Space Marine? Because if it does, sign me up right now. Sign me up. I want to be a Space Marine.
In reality, Space Force Guardians work from bases on the ground to help protect assets up in space.
There's a possible event in Sector 52.
Insider was granted access to Buckley Space Force Base in Aurora, Colorado.
Interesting.
To see how Guardians detect incoming
I didn't know it was in Colorado. Interesting.
missiles, and to learn more about the newest branch in the U.S. military.
Oh, it's such a cool idea. What does their, like, #1 uniform look like? So obviously the Marine, well, we have what's called the Blues. Our Blues are #1s, right? I wonder what the Space Forces ones look like.
Originally, my plan was to go Air Force, but when I gave my job list to my recruiter, he's like, hey, all these jobs are either being transferred or are currently in the Space Force. Would you like to essentially switch from Air Force to Space Force? I immediately was like, yep, switch me.
Yeah,
All
I bet.
enlisted Space Force Junior Guardians start their career at Lackland Air Force Base. That's because the Space Force recently split off from the Air Force.
Oh, so they are split from the Air Force, but they do obviously work very close proximity with them.
Creating the 6th official U.S. military branch.
Interesting.
So we transitioned from the Air Force to a Space Force to put that level of focus from a programmatic, resourcing, and manpower perspective, because at the end of the day, when it comes to the protection of the space domain, that focus is imperative.
Interesting.
After basic military training, Junior Guardians begin their specialized class.
They're called Guardians. They're called Guardians. That is so cool. Who come up with these names? They were obviously like a sci-fi nerd. Guardians. That's pretty cool.
Room training in a program called STARCOM.
Once I was done with basic, they immediately sent me over to Vandenberg. From there, we learned everything fundamental we needed to learn, from space training, from satellites to telescopes, 2 simple stars.
Guardians move on to more hands-on training when they arrive at their assigned mission delta.
A Space Delta is a Space Force organization that is assigned a particular mission area.
Within the Space Force, the Operations Wing, or Space Operations Command, has
Cyber
9
Ops.
mission deltas.
All right, let's look over them again real quick. Let's start that from the beginning. Oh, it starts at... Oh, you can't really see number 2 there, can you? SCW,
In the Space
MW,
Force, the Operations Wing, or
C2,
Space Operations
Cyber Ops,
Command,
ISR,
has 9 mission deltas,
SATCOM,
each with a different focus.
OW.
For example, Space Delta 6, known as Cyber Delta, focuses on cybersecurity.
I knew that would be a big part of it, cybersecurity. You have to remember, I did do computer science at university. I did go for it. And so I know a little bit about that area of expertise.
From GPS to making payments on your credit cards to making phone calls to communicating with anybody in the world, all of that comes down to what we have available in space. And if those space assets are contested by adversaries or whatnot, we lose that ability to function at our peak performance.
Which they are at all times. Like, people don't realize how much foreign adversaries are constantly trying to hijack cyber stuff. Well, all sorts of different stuff in the US or in Western countries. Like, it happens on like an hourly basis. It's almost amazing at how much it happens. And they're just constantly trying to get in somewhere, learn more stuff, take information, plant some sort of malware, like literally constantly.
The largest delta, Space Delta 4, is headquartered here at Buckley Space Force Base.
So Space Delta 4's mission, per se, is to be able to protect, to guard against missiles, missile attacks launched against the United States, our allies, as well as deploy troops worldwide.
At Buckley, junior Guardians do on-the-job training for 3 months in a mission management course.
So it's more like a bit of an apprenticeship than anything, isn't it, really?
And we'll just drill them with different experiences, different lessons, and we'll have them conduct operations on the simulator.
Do you know what? If I had that opportunity when I was younger, I probably would have done that instead of the Marines. It's just something that you have so much more opportunity to do things outside of when you leave the military. Like, you literally, your job is in so much need everywhere. Cybersecurity, do you know how much they pay you? How much are you needed? It's crazy.
Later at Buckley uses real-life scenarios to train Guardians.
Being called a Guardian
Due
is
to
cool
the
as well.
sensitive nature of the mission, we were not permitted to film the screens, which could reveal top-secret areas of interest.
Yeah.
But we were allowed to document a training session from an approved vantage point.
There is a possible vent in Sector 52.
We are being trained to be the first line of defense. We are learning how to correctly and accurately collect and identify the systems any of our adversaries could be throwing at us.
Yeah.
To detect.
And again, like, it happens all the time, so they need to be like on point constantly. They need to constantly be on point. I wonder how that even, like, what that even looks like and how they're trying to manage all these different, because there's so many components to it. Like, they must be given a certain, like, small area to be looking at, and everyone gets their own little area they've got to be looking at constantly. Do you know what I mean?
Incoming missiles. Delta 4 uses a space-based infrared system, or SIBRs, 11 satellites in space that orbit around either the equator or poles and scan Earth's surface for heat anomalies. That infrared data is sent down from the satellites to these giant radomes,
Weird.
which house satellite dishes that are strategically pointed at areas of interest around the world.
So it's a lot more physical than I initially thought then, if they're looking at heat maps. Weird.
Infrared data is presented in a way on our display panels, if you will.
Missile launch confirmed. Impact area located in Sector 42.
I mean, that makes sense if it's a missile, right? They're looking for heat maps, so where something's taking off, where something's moving, and then they're able to look at the trajectory of it and, identify. I mean, if you're looking at the heat map of it, you could probably guess quite a few different things, like what type of missile it is, how big it is, what impact it can be made, and how far it can go, so where it's possible trajectory it can go, and what you need to do to get people out of there. It's pretty impressive, really, isn't it?
Junior Guardians call authorities to inform them of possible events so they can alert the targeted areas.
52, how copy? This is Vortex out.
There's a lot of pressure, but they also teach us how to do it correctly and as calmly as possible.
Make sure we speak up a little bit, but great job getting confirmation of the missile launch. And finally, outstanding getting the information out to our allies and partners, making sure that they were all on the same page with us. Do you guys have any questions?
After Junior Guardians have finished their mission management training, they can begin their job on the operations floor.
My God, such a cool job. Like, it really is. You must need to have good qualifications to get into it. Like, you must have had to do really well at high school and stuff, you know? You might even need more qualifications than that, to be honest with you. It's very impressive.
Due to the operations floor's 24/7 active role in missile detection, cameras are rarely allowed. But we were able to observe a couple of Guardians as they kept watch over the radars.
What we do impacts almost everyone in their day-to-day lives, whether they're here, whether they're downrange, like it's life or death.
The mission is accomplished by the young men and women sitting at the operations floor. And we put a lot of trust and a lot of responsibility on these folks because we have trained them to be that good.
Right.
I hope we get to see their other uniform as well. I really want to see it. Maybe we'll do a quick Google after this, actually.
Now in stage training, I'm still a little nervous because I am not fully confident in myself, but I know eventually later on in training, I will be able to do good on the ops floor.
Space Force is the president's boldest idea that he got from a Buzz Lightyear Happy Meal toy.
When the Space Force...
I get it. It was Trump that made it its own thing, but I mean, at the end of the day, it probably needed to do that anyway. I don't really care what your political affiliations are. It probably needed to be done in some way.
Was first announced, it became the subject of late-night punchlines.
Yeah.
There's even a Netflix series poking fun at the branch.
The president is creating a new branch, Space Force, which Mark will run.
What? The show provides a framework of...
I haven't seen the show. I wonder if it's any good.
Notional Hollywood ideas of what the organization is about. A lot of these misperceptions is just a lot of unknowns and curiosity about what Space Force is.
Yeah.
When in reality, the Space Force was created out of the recognition that space is so important to our way of life that it deserves to be protected.
I mean, I think it is something that needed to happen. I think that if there was any country that was able to make it its own branch, it's the US, right? That wouldn't be a separate branch in the UK. If you think about it, in the UK, the Royal Marines, which I was a part of, is still part of the Navy. Like, when I show you my old ID, it's a Navy ID still. And so if you were having some sort of group of people doing the same stuff in the UK, which there probably is, I guarantee there is the same people doing the same stuff in the UK, right? But it'll be part of the Air Force. It'll be part of the intelligence community. You know, we won't have the funding to be able to make it its own branch. And, you know, I think having it as its own branch has its, you know, it definitely has its pros and cons. Like, you probably get more, I don't know, would you get more backing and funding if you're part of, like, the Air Force? Would you get more resources, I would say? Maybe. But if they're their own kind of, this is the thing, right? A lot of people join the Air Force and don't really know what we want to do, unless you want to be a pilot, right? They don't be like, I want to join the Air Force to do intelligence. Like, there's a very specific thing. But when you make a branch called the Space Force and you make it sound pretty fucking cool, or you're going to be a Guardian working with satellites and blah, 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 it draws more attention and therefore gets more people to sign up to it. Like, I would have definitely signed up for this if I was younger in the US. Like, definitely. Would I have signed up for intelligence in the Air Force? No, I would have went in the Royal Marines like I did. Do you know what I mean?
The Space Force also gets confused with its civilian counterpart, NASA.
So NASA, being our exploration as well as scientific branch of the government, they're looking out beyond the stars, trying to look out, get all that scientific data, as well as looking at manned missions. On the Space Force side, looking more inwardly, making sure that we're looking terrestrially to help our ground forces, air forces, as well as our allies and partners.
That makes sense.
People constantly ask us, or if they see me in uniform, in a Space Force uniform, they're like, oh, have you been to space? Like, when's the last time you've been to space? There's actually very few operators that do go to space.
I bet that's the big gripe in it. You haven't even been to space, though. Should it have been called something more like the Cyber Force? I don't really care, but I think Space Force gives the name Space Force. Yes, it definitely gives it some ridicule, right? It definitely gives it a lot of room for obvious military banter, right? Obviously. Like, you're not going to be separate from that, and you're definitely going to get it, especially early on when you're still new. But at the same time, I feel like it gives room for growth. Like, it's like you can't really call the Air Force the pilot force because they're not just pilots to do more stuff. You can't really call the Army, you know, the tank force because they do more than that, right? And so calling it something very generic with an kind of like an umbrella term like Space Force, I think gives it the room to grow. You know, I don't know, if 400 or 500 years, if the US is still around, we're going to be in space more often. And the Space Force might all of a sudden become as big as the Navy, as the Air Force, maybe even bigger because it's got that umbrella term and they're able to make them departments in there. Does that make sense?
For them, what we do is operate all of our assets within space.
Yeah.
The Space Force is constantly growing and evolving. On August 4th, 2022, right before our visit to Buckley, the Space Force launched GEO-6, the 6th SBIRS geosynchronous Earth orbit satellite, into space.
So cool.
Our success is not so much what we do to an adversary. Our success is more measured in terms of what an adversary does not do to us because we stand guard.
This job is 24/7. It is something that is necessary, and our mission does not stop no matter what.
How copy? This is Vortex.
So cool. I honestly have mad respect for him. I think it is genuinely really cool. I want to see Space Force Navy. Space Force uniform. I just want to see what it looks like. Let's have a look. Is that... Looks more like police, doesn't it? More than anything. It's definitely very RAF. Can you click that and make it bigger? So this is actually part of the Space Force website. It's a pretty cool uniform. It definitely looks more, you know, it's very civilian-esque with the shirt and tie. But it definitely looks more like Air Force, doesn't it, more than anything? This is the US Air Force website, by the looks of it. So cool. It honestly, I think, is massive, if I'm honest with you. Let's see if that is actually the legit website. Yeah, I guess that is the legit website. Not the best website to say that they're a Space Force. And there's nothing there about signing up or... Interesting. I think it's pretty cool. I honestly do, and I think if you're young and you're looking to join a military that you can have skills outside of the armed forces, like, it's a good one to do. It's a really good one to do, and I guarantee you're going to get a lot of stick. You're going to get a lot of people taking the piss, being, oh, you're Space Force. It's a solid career choice, guys. I'm telling you right now. Great video. And I definitely want to learn more about the Space Force. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts. I really would. Do you think this is the right direction? Because I certainly think it is. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. We're close to 500,000. Telling you right now, we're so close. And we're going to party. Until next time, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.